tremendous part of this giant network just by taking out essentially one node. So this has tremendous implications in real world stuff and real world biology as well. If you take out one node in a biological system that's a critical node, you can cause that system to collapse. But on the other hand, random failure, so take the brain, little small infarcts or little strokes happen in old people's brains all the time. It doesn't cause them to be wiped out. A big one will, but just these little ones don't. But if that little one hits just those critical nodes, it could really cause a tremendous cascade like this, okay? All right, so I'm going to touch on a couple of things we know about small worlds and hubs in the brain, and then I'm going to talk to you about what Karen's doing, what we're doing with Karen. So everyone who's studied the brain with network theory so far has shown it clearly exhibits small world properties. And it doesn't matter if you're using functional imaging data or structural imaging data. These small world properties are altered in multiple disease states, including epilepsy, which looks much more like a random network, which makes sense, right? If epilepsy people have generalized seizures, so it looks more random, which means there's no clustering. The information is just allowed to spread rapidly throughout, as well as schizophrenia, aging, which is what I study, Alzheimer's disease. We know the connectivity exhibits hub structures. There's certain parts of the brain that garner a tremendous number of the connections. In those regions, one of them, called the posterior cingulate, turns out to be the region of the brain most early identifiable as diseased in Alzheimer's disease. So it's probably related to its hub stature. And we know that hubs can change, at least with functional data, hubs change with state. As you go from one cognitive state to another, the hubs or the connectivity of the network changes. And certainly diseases can alter that. So let's talk about how we generate networks with brain data, and we're going to do what we normally do is we create these really large networks with every voxel in the image being a node. And so we'll create a network with about 20,000 nodes and maybe 400,000 connections. But what I'm going to talk about today is a reduced size network where we build it with 90 nodes, and those are based on different anatomical brain regions. We take an fMRI time series, so the fMRI has, say, 200 images. Every voxel has a time series with 200 points in it. And we did make a cross-correlation matrix shown right here, where every node, if I can ever bring up the mouse, every node is represented along both axes, and you just generate a cross-correlation matrix, okay? So it's 90 by 90. And then we apply a threshold to that to make it a binary matrix. And now each connection is represented as a 1, otherwise it's a 0. And we can build a network, which is the example you see here as a real person's network, with the 90 nodes and all the connections between the 90 nodes. All right? Does that make sense? Then what we do is we model this. And so I'm going to take a sidestep into some stuff that we're doing that I'm not an expert in, but it's super fun, and I hope if you have a chance you'll look into it. Who's heard of agent-based models? Anyone? Huawei has. Anyone over there heard of agent-based models? A couple of people. So agent-based models, I lost them again. Agent-based models are really cool because they're intuitive, okay? Most models I've dealt with, I work with Chris Wyatt a lot. He brings these models with partial differential equations and stuff that I don't understand and aren't quite solvable, and I'm like, I don't get it. These models are very interesting because what you do is you take all your agents, in this case, the nodes in the brain. Each node is an agent, okay? And they're interconnected based on the network we drew. They're interdependent. That means when one node does something, it influences its neighbors. And then, as I put up here, they're adaptive and diverse. They can change their states, and not every node's the same. They all have different degrees, for instance. Then you take this really, what turns out to be a complex system, although we've simplified it to 90 nodes, and you give it very simple rules, all right? And based on those very simple rules, you can make what essentially amounts to really dumb agents produce astounding complex behaviors. This is from a program I'm going to show you in a second called NetLogo. This is a model of an ant colony. Each of the little dots is an ant, okay? The center thing is their home. The 3 blue dots are food sources. All right, I'm doing a model. Down in your bottom corner is a model generated in NetLogo. The center purple dot is the home of an ant colony. The red dots are ants. The blue dots are food sources. In this model, which I'll show you in a second, you can change the amount of pheromone an ant puts out, or I should say how long the pheromone lasts and how far it distributes. Every time an ant finds food, it turns out they put out a pheromone when they head back to their home. I ran the model here where I made the pheromone dissipate or evaporate almost instantly, okay? And what you see is a random mess, right? The ants are just roaming all over the place. This one, I allowed the pheromone to sit around for a while, and that's the yellow-green stuff. And now you'll notice the same number of ticks, so you iterate this every time point, every agent updates itself. The same amount of time, now you have a nice ordered system where ants are going to the 3 food sources, and there's still a scattered of a few dumb ones, we'll call them out there, but the rest are pretty well ordered. So I'm going to try to bring up NetLogo. I don't know.
It should be open in the background.
Okay. Can I open regular ones with this? Or do I need to open the other NetLogo? Let me open.
You mean just the 2D?
Yeah. I want to open the ants.
Actually, you can click on the logo on the bottom if that's a little easier. Yeah, the regular one. Okay,
so this program's called NetLogo. It's free to download. It's really awesome. Ask Kieran's been using it a lot. I really like it. I'm not a programmer, and I can even use it. It's really intuitive. And basically, you take whatever system you want to model. With each agent is whatever you study. You can define the interactions between them, and you can define rules between them, and then you can let it run. And this is the ant. All right, so what I do is hit setup. Here's the ant. I can change the number of ants. I'll put 200 ants in here. Okay, this is the diffusion rate, shows how fast their pheromone diffuses. This is the evaporation rate, how fast it evaporates. This just shows a plot of what's going on. I say go, and there go the ants. They just destroy the food sources, okay? But now, if I do the same thing, but I make it evaporate really fast so they don't leave good trails, you'll see what happens. They just go all over. They still devour the piles, but it's in a much more random, unstructured system. So the point of this is we took what amount to very dumb things, these ants. All they do is they roam around until they find food. If they find food, they go back home. Otherwise, if they smell a pheromone, they follow it. That's the only thing these ants are doing. And they produce amazing community behaviors. Real ant colonies do this. Ants aren't smart, despite sort of the common idea that ants are really intelligent. They're not. Ants are really dumb. It's the emergent behavior of their system that's really amazing. Okay, so that's what an agent-based model is. And I'm going to come back to that in the brain. Damn. All right. First, I want to talk about cellular automata. Has anyone heard of these? If not, you should read about them. They are absolutely fascinating. They are essentially some of the most basic computing systems that exist, and they're incredibly powerful. And if anyone uses Mathematica, Stephen Wolfram, who wrote Mathematica and owns a company, is like a big proponent. He wrote Mathematica initially to study these systems. Basically what they are, an elementary version is very simple. It's just a one-dimensional array of cells, okay, that's